Will cobalt disappear from the batteries in your phone, your laptop, your car? A few years ago, the answer looked like yes, cobalt was on the way out. Newer EV batteries, LFP, were supposed to replace it. That isn't what happened. Cobalt didn't disappear, and the market kept growing. What changed is the map, who actually makes it. DR Congo still mines about 74% of the world's cobalt. Indonesia, almost nothing 5 years ago, is now the clear number 2, around 14%. And almost every ton that ends up in a battery still passes through a refinery in China. Start with the mine map. USGS estimates world mined cobalt at 310,000 tons in 2025. The DRC accounts for 230,000 tons, about 74%. Indonesia accounts for 44,000 tons, about 14%. Together, those two countries supply almost 88% of mined cobalt. Russia, Australia, and Canada are much smaller in this supply picture. So the supply base is concentrated, but no longer static. The first question is where the marginal ton is coming from. On the screen, cobalt looks like one price. In the supply chain, it is mine output, processing route, and policy risk. That is why the DRC Indonesia China triangle matters. It decides whether tightness becomes local leverage or a global price floor. The old explanation was chemistry. S&P Global Energy reported LFP at 80.9% of China's February battery production. NMC, the cobalt-bearing family, was 19% that month. That confirms real demand pressure on cobalt-bearing cathodes. But demand pressure is not the same as a finished cobalt story. Supply kept changing while the battery debate focused on substitution. In Indonesia, HPAL operations make MHP containing nickel and cobalt. The cobalt comes with the nickel stream, not as the main investment target. So LFP weakens one demand channel while byproduct supply opens another. The market has to price both movements at once. The DRC is still the swing jurisdiction in mined cobalt. USGS puts its 2025 production at 230,000 tons. That is more cobalt than the rest of the world combined. Policy now sits directly on top of that concentration. After the 2025 export suspension, the quota system caps exports sharply. The cap is 96,600 tons in both 2026 and 2027. S&P Global says that is about a 48% drop versus 2024 exports. If output is not cut, more than 100,000 tons a year may need storage. That is the fiscal problem inside price support. Leverage can raise the floor, but it can also trap cash in inventory. Indonesia is different because cobalt is not the main product. HPAL plants process nickel or into MHP containing nickel and cobalt. Benchmark puts the nickel-to-cobalt ratio near 8:1 or 10:1. That makes cobalt a byproduct of the nickel investment cycle. Cobalt Institute data put Indonesia at 2% of global cobalt supply in 2021. By 2024, Indonesia's share was 12%. Its output grew 12-fold and supplied 30% of global growth that year. 89% of Indonesian cobalt output came from MHP in 2024. More than 95% of its growth to 2030 is expected from MHP. Reuters reported that Chinese firms warned Indonesian nickel quotas and tax changes could threaten investment. That policy risk matters because cobalt supply growth is attached to nickel economics. The bottleneck after the mine is still China. Benchmark data cited by the Cobalt Institute put China's refined share at 78.6%. That share held in both 2023 and 2024. So DRC hydroxide and Indonesian MHP can diversify mines without diversifying refining. The price floor forms where intermediate material meets processing capacity. DRC quotas restrict exports before material reaches refiners. Indonesian byproduct supply grows when HPAL nickel economics work. Chinese refining decides where intermediates become cobalt chemicals or metal. USGS says LME cash cobalt averaged $15 per pound in 2025. That was above 2024, but far below the 2022 average. Fast markets reported that hydroxide availability and payables shape new refinery economics. The watch list is quotas, HPAL utilization, Chinese refining, and payables together.